whether it's on my podcast or yours. It's never.
You're still not 100% sure he actually even exists. This might just be me talking to myself whenever I do these interviews. Because Jacob's been on my podcast probably like 10 times already, and now first time coming on the Roy's Boys podcast. But he has said, just so many great things, not only about, about me doing the podcast when I interview him and everything, but about you as well. Just saying how great, he loves the show and loves how much, we've been working towards trying to get, our stuff out there and to you guys so that you can listen and everything. So one of the guys that's a really big supporter, always love having him on. He just, he does such a great job. Another guy that just works really hard over there at Toriel Illustrated. So yeah, he's always a fun guy to have on.
Let's go ahead and look at the matchup tonight with the Bulldogs of Gardner-Webb. It's, look, we understand this is a non-conference game. It's non-conference season, so you have to play these games for money reasons and stuff like that.
Well, explain why you're saying this, because I feel like most people that probably don't know a whole lot about Gardner-Webb in the 2019 season are probably sitting at home like, didn't this team make the tournament a year ago and gave Virginia a little bit of fits?
That's right. They made their first ever NCAA tournament last season, and they did have a double-digit lead in the first half against the eventual national champion Virginia Cavaliers. But look, small in-state school right up the road from us up near Shelby. And look, they have history giving Carolina a battle. You remember that in 2006, Tyler Hansborough's freshman year, Carolina had to beat them on a buzzer beater. But look, Carolina plays these games to get better, but also to keep programs like Gardner-Webb functioning.
Okay.
And so look, for Carolina though, and this year, and we'll say this throughout all of these kind of non-conference games, this game is important because you've had a week off. So you've had a chance to kind of, look back at what you did in your first two wins, the opener against Notre Dame, your first road win at UNCW. But if we're being brutally honest, Carolina hasn't. They've had moments where they've played well. They've played 4-minute segments where they've played well.
Right.
They're not good enough to do that and win at a high level this year, and that's just quite frankly what this team is. They're not good enough to play 30 minutes. Kind of like when we talk about Carolina football, they've got to play close to their potential for 60 minutes. Same with Carolina basketball. They've got to play as close to their potential for 40 minutes. We saw that in the Notre Dame game. Didn't see that a whole lot at Wilmington. And tonight they get a chance to kind of build off of what the niceties did at Wilmington. The good thing is Gardner-Webb, not all that good. They've lost their first two games to Furman.
That's what I was trying to point
to. And to Western Carolina.
Not a good start after going to
two other smaller schools that aren't very good either. This isn't a Furman team that last year won at Villanova. Completely different year this year for 2019 Gardner-Webb. They entered the year, like I said, 0-2, or the game 0-2. And look, they've really struggled offensively. Jose Perez is leading them with 16 points per game, but only shooting 36% from the field. Ironically, he's shooting 50% from three, so that's something that Carolina have to keep an eye on, but he's only a 60% foul shooter. And look, as a team, they've only scored 61 points per game, and we just mentioned the two teams that they played against. So not great defensive teams, or not even great teams really individually. And so Carolina cannot overlook tonight's opponent. I don't think a 9 o'clock tip on a Friday night helps them. It feels like this will be a sleepy environment inside Chapel Hill. The game does not figure to be sold out. Like I said, 9 o'clock tip for Gardner-Webb. Not going to be a whole lot of energy in tonight's building from the fans, you wouldn't imagine.
Right.
So Carolina's got to bring their own energy.
Yeah, and I mean, a lot of people asking why this is a 9 o'clock tip. It's a 9 o'clock tip because it's a doubleheader. Duke plays earlier in the night against, some crapper? I don't know who they are. Plain and simple, Cupcake. Carolina's playing a cupcake too, though, so we can't really get overly critical. But first of all, the reason why Gardner-Webb is as bad, graduated a lot from that tournament team. It's a very young team, but again, this is the big thing that I want people going into the game to realize. You can't take any opponent lightly. We just learned that the other night with Kentucky. You have to prepare for every team because these are the types of teams that they will come in and play their best game against you because this is their biggest game of the season. So, Carolina's got to come out prepared. You're right. Against Notre Dame, we saw some consistent stretches where they played well. It wasn't as consistent against UNC Wilmington. And, part of that is because, let's be honest, you may have overlooked Wilmington a little bit, seeing a team that, isn't as good as they've been in past years. Feeling that, Roy is not going to lose to CB McGrath because he knows, that the style that CB is going to want to coach. But, look, I think that you're right. This is a big game for, really a couple of guys. You want to see guys like Cole Anthony maybe shoot a little more efficiently from the field. I mean, look, I'm not a guy that's going to be overly critical for him with him because, look, I mean, the guy's averaging 27 points per game in the first 2 games of the year. He scored 34 and 20. But this is a chance for him to come out and put up, a big night. Maybe spread the basketball around a little bit more, something that, we saw him do at the high school level. Hadn't seen a whole lot of it here early on. And I think, this is, a big game to me for Christian Keeling because I think that this young man, he struggled so far the first 2 games of his Carolina career. And, you guys heard with in the interview with Jacob Turner, I think he brought up a really good point. He's really just trying to do a little bit too much, too quick. He's trying to be the guy, he thinks that he's playing at Charleston Southern. He has to be the guy that does everything. When you're playing on a Tar roster that's extremely talented. So, don't be afraid to give the ball up a little bit and play a little looser because, this isn't all on you or this team fails. You've got some guys around you that are very talented. So, I think this is a chance for him to come out and kind of settle down some of those early concerns that people have about him at Carolina. And, I definitely feel like Carolina will have, will play well enough to where he'll be able to do that somewhat comfortably.
A big factor in why Carolina struggled at Wilmington was at one point when Baycott left the injury, they were down 5 scholarship players. That now is back down to 4. Baycott does make his return tonight, and I'm interested to see how he looks because we didn't get to see him at Wilmington because he got 2 quick fouls and then he got the injury.
Yeah.
This is a guy that when I talk about seeing the potential, you saw it at Notre Dame where you saw flashes of the kind of big man.
Especially early on. The guy that was able to get in the post and get some points on the board. That was really encouraging.
So this is a good chance for him to kind of build off of what he did now almost 2 weeks ago.
Mm-hmm.
As Carolina is they're also getting more comfortable again playing with 2 bigs because you haven't played with 2 bigs consistently since the year you won the national championship.
Right.
It's also, you talked about Christian Keeling and look, he struggled. The game maybe this week kind of slowed down for him in practice with the mental reps and what the team walked through. Justin Pierce, as great as Cole Anthony was against Wilmington, kept Carolina in the game early when they didn't come out kind of as prepared to play and had a monster game, 18 and 12, had a double-double at halftime. That might have been the turning point for him as for him getting more comfortable.
Turning point in the second game of the season.
But I mean, look, there was so much overreaction as there is with Carolina basketball after the first game.
Well, sports in general, but especially Carolina basketball.
And so maybe if he's a lot more comfortable with not only himself, but with the other players, also confidence. Confidence is so key, especially when you're a guy that's a shooter like he is. When your shot's going in the basket, you're going to feel a lot more confident in this game. You're going to be more willing to go rebound the ball or play tougher defense on the perimeter, and you got that with him at Wilmington. How does he respond tonight as his role continues to grow? Because look, as long as Carolina's without Brandon Robinson and those backup point guards, they need perimeter scoring outside of Cole Anthony.
Well, I mean, they needed perimeter scoring in general anyways because, I mean, let's be real honest. Who of the guys, when they come back, is really that sure three-point shooter?
It's Brandon Robinson because he shot over 40% from 3 last year.
Right. But that was with a lesser role still, guy that was really the 7th man off the bench. Now he's going to be playing a more significant role. You wonder if that number dips a little bit. But the other thing is you also need... You can't have just one guy that shoots three-point shots consistently. That's one of your guys on the outside. I mean, Cole Anthony has shot the ball well from... Well, he's shot the ball well at times from deep. He's had some inconsistencies there as well. But, look, I think... Justin Pierce came out and played extremely well in the game against UNC Wilmington. I think playing an opponent that he was familiar with definitely helped. I think, look, Gardner-Webb is not an opponent that he's familiar with, but is a similar team to UNC Wilmington, where I think Justin Pierce will be able to take advantage of them. And, I think he's the size is definitely something that, allows him to be as effective as he was on the glass. And look, here's the thing. Baycott is going to play against Gardner-Webb. I am willing to bet that he is not going to play 33, 35 minutes. Okay, Justin Pierce is going to see a significant amount of time in this game. They're not going to rush Baycott back, especially with it being a concussion that he's dealing with. So I think we'll see him pretty often out there, and I think Justin Pierce is a guy that is showing early on. He's going to be one of those guys that can, stretch the floor a little bit for you, can shoot the ball from the outside, and I think this is another game where he could really thrive and have back-to-back good games and, turn that chatter that we saw after the first game into a little bit of positive talk about him.
One thing we've emphasized this week between the UNCW game and tonight with our interviews where we had a lot of guests on was how much Carolina has struggled in transition and at the foul line. I've harped on that on the podcast and on the writing on the HeelToughBlog.com.
To be fair, if they miss one free throw, you harp on the free throw shooting. But go
okay,
on.
I'm not that cynical about missed foul shots, but
when
you've missed
in game,
you've missed 21 in 2 games,
yeah,
I'm going to be a little concerned. I've coined the phrase two missed free throws is a silent turnover. I love that. Fran Fraschilla once said that ironically.
Okay, so you didn't coin the phrase. Okay, Fran Fraschilla coined it.
He coined it. I stole it, but I have my own podcast. He does it, so I can coin it.
Oh, does he? He probably has his own podcast. Let's be really honest.
Ironically,
okay?
that came on a broadcast which Carolina lost at home to Belmont when J.P. Tokoto was a beautiful 4 of 16 from the foul line. And so that's always stuck with me ever since when Carolina struggles from the foul line is if you miss 2 of them, it's a silent turnover. You can't miss the freebies, I'm pretty sure. And look, the Notre Dame game, it was Armando Baycott struggling from the foul line. Cole Anthony was 2 of 7 from Wilmington, so it's not just the bigs.
0 of 4 as well. Yep.
It's your guys that are playing well, shooting the ball from the field. They've got to knock in the free ones when that clock is stopped. And the transition points maybe is the most concerning early because that's a staple of this program is we're going to get easy buckets of transition. They've got 23 points in 2 games. There are times this program averages over 20 points per game in that statistic alone for a season.
Okay, I'm going to talk you off the ledge because it feels like you're close to jumping at this point with that. I get that it's a staple of the program. In order to get out on the fast break, you need to turn people over. When your opponents have turned it over just 17 times, there's not really a whole lot that you can do on the fast break. And I get it. My concern would be more with the fact that Carolina is not creating a lot of live ball turnovers, as they've been doing so successfully over the last couple of years, especially last year. That would be my bigger concern with that. But I'm not really as overly concerned with that. I feel like, and Jacob Turner brought this up as well, and I thought it was a very good point. Once this team gets healthy, I think that they'll be able to run a little bit more with some of the guards that will be able to move the basketball a little bit quicker up the floor. I also think that, when they have to go to guys like Leaky Black and Andrew Platek to handle the ball, they're not quite as quick getting the ball up the floor as Cole Anthony and maybe Anthony Harris will be whenever he ends up re-entering the lineup. So that could be something to keep an eye on. The free throw shooting really concerns me because you talk about a staple of the program. Good free throw shooting is something that Roy Williams talks about all the time. Rebounding and good free throw shooting. You've got to be able to do it. And I like what you said. 2 missed free throws is a silent turnover. It makes a lot of sense because, that's an empty trip down the floor. And, I'm with you because, the thing is, in the first game, it was Armando Baycott missing 5 free throw shots. The rest of the team missed just 2. In that last game against Wilmington, you had your point guard in Cole Anthony who's shot it, relatively well from the field when he's needed to. as well as Justin Pierce, who had a great night shooting the ball from the field. Those were the guys that were struggling at the free throw line. Your shooters were struggling at the free throw line.